Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday Coffee Moaning. Welcome, Isabella Mia. We weren't going to be doing a coffee moaning this morning. Nadia is with our dear friend Hannah today. They're doing something this morning, but we are going to be doing together a America First, or maybe America Last. We're going to be doing Trump's first 3 weeks tonight. I mean, obviously, he's been in for 23 days, so we'll be doing our third in our series, our playlist of Trump's America. And it felt like an appropriate one to do tonight, which is why we didn't do a wine o'clock tonight and we did a coffee moaning, because I don't know if anyone's seen Musk and his son X in the Oval Office. Quite phenomenal footage, quite bizarre. Talk about condoms, picking noses, rubbing them on Donald Trump's legs and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so we'll be seeing you later for that. We'll upload, obviously, a live link, and you'll be notified about that later. And there'll also be a vlog landing later. If you haven't, guys, what the fuck is wrong with everyone? Hit the thumbs up icon. We don't do that anymore, do we? No, seriously, subscribe, hit the alarm bell. If you find us irritating, do the alarm bell, but say, don't notify me too often. Or if you find us addictive, then put notify all the time on the bell. People don't realize that when you do the notification bell, when you become a subscriber, you have 3 options. When you click on the bell icon, it tells you how many times you'll be notified. Because I know some people don't get notified. So there we have it. Yeah, as I say, so Nads is out with Hannah. So what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to be talking about Gaza, because it looks like the ceasefire is going to buckle and fall apart. But don't believe the press that really this was something that Netanyahu clung to with much sincerity. I think, you know, you'd be hard pushed to believe that he really wanted the ceasefire. Anyway, so the Gaza ceasefire is under jeopardy. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Peter Kay, the stand-up comedian, and actor, Peter Kay. Huge fan of Peter Kay. Love his comedy, love his stand-up. He manages to make things like biscuits, rain, and garlic bread. Just so funny. But we're going to talk about how he managed a Heckler situation in his current tour. It's the week in which the Times and YouGov are publishing all sorts of material about Gen Zers and how Gen Zers are just odd, really. They're not just young, but Gen Zers are odd. Anyone here, answer this. Anyone here say yes if you're a Gen Zer? Say, yes, I am. Or do you know a Gen Zer very close to you? And say, yes, I do. So yes, I am, or yes, I do. Because we're going to be talking about how Gen Z believes in God and believes in big knickers. I smell a rat. It's the week that Bridget Jones is released. There's always stories about big knickers when Bridget Jones is in the building. Isn't there, Christos? What are your feelings, Christos? I know your feelings on so many sophisticated and complex aspects of life, existentialism, philosophy, creativity. But what's your theory on big knickers, Christos? Bridget M, not sure what I am. That's a good point. Oh, God, here we go again. I know I'm a millennial, and I know that Nadia is just clawed into a baby boomer. What are you, Zoe? Are you a Gen Xer? No, is that Gen Xer? Gen Xer, millennial? Kerry Bedford, it's a very hard day today. I have got to say goodbye. Oh, sweetheart, Kerry, to my 18-year-old dog, Poppy, and it's killed. Oh, sweetheart, everyone's sending our love. That is just so sad. And I don't think people fully attend to how sad that is and will be. So sending you love, sending you love. Oh, yeah, so sad. I'm a millennial. Oh, am I? I'm a millennial. That sounds cool, doesn't it? It sounds like something out of Star Wars, which is apt. I'm a millennial. Zoe's a Gen X. No, Zoe's a millennial. What am I? I'm the same as you, Mark Ellery. What are we? 1984. Is that a millennial? Oh, fuck it all. I'm going to have to get the things up now. Hang on, bear with me. Gen X. What would you put in? What Gen X? What generation am I? Yeah, that's it. What's that song? Generation. All right, generation. Right. Baby boomers, 1946 to 96. How many times have we done this? 1946 to 1964. Whether Nadia likes it or not, she's in there. Generation X, 1965 to 1979. I'm a Gen Xer. Millennials, 1980 to 1994. Gen Z, 1995 to 2012. So that's both my youngest girls. And Generation Alpha, born between 2013 and 2025. Generation Alpha. So we've gone all the way back round. Bloody hell. So Gen Zers. Why are we talking about Gen Zers? I suppose we're talking about Gen Zers because 1995 to 2012, they're the young adults of today. And they're going to dictate the shape of things for tomorrow. Or as they say on Love Island, tomorrow night. Tonight. Anyway, so we're going to be talking about how Gen Z believes in God and apparently believes in big knickers. Apparently they're not having much sex, Gen Zers. Quite a well-behaved sort of bunch. Though I have to confess, the parties that have been sort of had here, I wouldn't necessarily say that. They chew a lot of gum. They like their vapes. But yeah, anyway. Okay, so I want to briefly talk, obviously not making light of this at all, but the Middle East is on a precipice again. Hamas have stopped the exchange of hostages, and it is a hostage exchange. It's not hostages for prisoners. Many of the people being released by Israel have been held without charge and in horrendous conditions, and families haven't heard from them so in my book, that's a hostage. So Hamas have stopped this because of claims that Israel have not observed the terms of the ceasefire. Of course, because we have an incredibly heavily tilted towards Israel planet in terms of those in control of the media and stuff like that, tilted towards Israel. Great sort of apologists in the West for Israel. They would have you think that actually Israel haven't broken any ceasefire terms. In fact, Hamas have broken the ceasefire terms. Why have they? Hamas have broken the ceasefire terms because Hamas say Israel have broken the ceasefire terms. So Israel can't point at anything that Hamas has done beyond saying that Israel have broken the ceasefire deal. It's like being in a relationship with someone who never answers a question and never explains never defends a challenge or tries to explain away what they've done. It's quite staggering the extent to which Netanyahu's Israel are allowed to get away with zero self-reflection or self-analysis. I mean, I wonder if there's ever a moment in BB, the biggest baby in the universe, where he pauses and goes, nah, maybe I'm not right on that. I mean, isn't that what makes humans kind of at their best? Brilliant is an ability to recognize when you're wrong, when you've gone too far. I mean, do you think he wakes up, makes a cup of tea, BB, and sort of stands out? He might have a moment where he looks out and he sort of thinks, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done that. No, I don't think he does, because of course, to quote Ralph Fiennes in the movie Conclave, which I found a bit disappointing, but I love this quote: certainty is the obstruction to faith. Certainty. Beware of those people who are certain. Anyone who can be so certain about anything, when we live in a world where nothing's certain, be suspicious of. So I was talking to Nadia just a minute ago, and it's like she said, sometimes people want people to just be in one camp on an idea. So you have a topic, like I had a conversation the other day about me saying, in some respect, I think people who use weight loss drugs as a lifestyle choice, which is what I was saying, are cheating. And, if you feel something, you can be moved on that. You can be shifted. You can be changed. And perhaps I started that thought quite strongly, but by the end of it, I'd kind of softened it and moderated it, because actually, no, that's not what, that's not right. How that sounded meant it didn't mean that, and that kind of thing. Why is there a perception that strength comes from rigidity of thought? Do you get me? On that thought, I've just got to have some coffee just so I can think. Come on, guys. This is an existential start to Coffee Moaning. Tell us what you think. Zoe. Here we go. It's okay to debate and be open to listen. I mean, of course, you can have a strong opinion. And I like people who feel strongly about something, but I find blind faith in anything disturbing and difficult to liaise with, or difficult to talk with, or difficult to deal with. If there's any rigidity of thought, I mean, right down to, like, I've talked about it before. There was a Don't Just Stop Oil, 100% behind the Just Stop Oil, ethos. But I was listening to a Just Stop Oil woman on the radio the other day, and she literally was not allowing a question to be asked. And just to my untrained eye, so I'm thinking, I'm sympathetic, I understand. I think the sentencing is too strong. I think you're targeting the wrong targets, but let's have a conversation about that. But then she got going. By the end of her ranting in an inflexible fashion, I wanted all of Just Stop Oil to go fuck themselves. Now, that can't be good for Just Stop Oil, can it? Do you get me? And that's what I mean about Bibi, the biggest baby in the Middle East. His rigidity of thought, his inability for self-reflection. I mean, he needs a psychiatrist. He needs some therapy sessions. He needs some cognitive behavioral therapy. He needs some sadism therapy. He needs a hug. Maybe all that we need to do to resolve the far right in Israel is just, they all need a hug. Ben Gvir looks like he's never hugged. He doesn't sit still long enough or shut his mouth for long enough to. They need a hug. Let's all hug each other. DP, Mark, I can see that Twitter is now bombarded with pro-Trump posts. Funny that, isn't it? Given that Elon, whose son is called X, God, imagine your son. I mean, when he grows up, is X going to be like, man, I've got an app named after me? Hamas are sacrificing their own people too, and that doesn't mean I'm a supporter of Israel. That's a really important thing you say there. I think we are at we're at a very important and interesting point at which, who does anyone want the Hamas to, in a sense, even if Hamas are right about this, we have no way of knowing the absolute details, though we do know that Israel have sniped, shot, killed, and prevented free passage to their homes across Gaza. So we know for a fact that Israel have breached the ceasefire terms. But it's an interesting debate because, how many just ordinary Palestinians don't want Hamas to get principled about the ceasefire terms and would rather they just plowed on? And I think a number of other Middle Eastern countries are putting pressure on Hamas to just go, you know what, sure, Israel haven't crossed the T's or dotted the I's, but when have they ever? So let's just get this hostage exchange done. It doesn't help, I guess, in the negotiating, does it, for Israel, for the families of the hostages, for Hamas? Oh, Gigi. It doesn't help, does it, when you've got, the biggest toddler in the world. So you've got Bibi, the biggest baby, and then you've got Trump, the toddler, basically trying to sort of say, we'll ethnically cleanse in a way that's really nice because you'll have a casino, there'll be a pool, and we'll make lots of people have jobs. And we'll talk tonight about Trump in more detail, the farcical sort of strange kind of, it's like the footage today in the Oval Office that I've seen. It was like something from South Park. It's bizarre. Christos, smoke and mirrors, deflection. I presume you're not talking about big Knickers. Smoke and mirrors, deflection, redirection, their usual decoy tactics of people literally missing the forest for a twig, not even a tree. In the meantime, construction contractors are pouring in. You know what? I mean, just on this point, if they end up doing what Trump has decided to do, I hope they're all haunted for generation after generation by essentially the tens of thousands of innocents that have perished in the dust and the debris upon which this incredibly tasteless suggestion of a Middle Eastern Riviera is built. I mean, if that comes to fruition, if the world allows that to happen, and people can get on board with the idea that you're actually building onto the bones and DNA and the fragments of children and women, and I hate the way in which you never include in the innocent victims men, because Israel have things positioned so that if you're a man, who's a Palestinian and you are in opposition to what Israel's doing, we have this curious existential oddness where you are automatically, by definition, defined as a terrorist. Imagine that. Imagine removing the capacity of a listen to me clearly here, non-Hamas person, man. If you want to resist anything, protect your home, protect your family, protect your livelihood, protect your land, you are automatically, by the West and by Bibi, the biggest baby in the Middle East, defined as a terrorist. What an astonishingly sinister but clever, gaslighting, propagandized trick that's been pulled by Israel and the West. Why don't people talk about that more? Why don't people actually talk about that? I'm not talking about no one sitting here saying Hamas isn't a terrorist organization. It is. It's defined as one. But if you are an individual man looking out for your family and everything and everyone there, and you try to fight back, you will be punished and destroyed and sniped and bombed or arrested and tortured, because by the very definition of resisting anything as a non-terrorist Palestinian, you become a terrorist. It really that needs to be talked about a little bit more, because what happens is people try to run around squealing. You're saying their freedom for, you're saying, well, let's not get into the, no, when people say, you're saying, so what are you saying? I mean, Piers Morgan does it all the time. It's called a bear trap. They're trying to trip people into saying something that they can then say, oh, you're supporting terrorists. Oh, no one is supporting the death of anyone. But I'm just curious. It's a really important defining feature of the crisis. So consequently, when we see the West Bank being slowly eroded, Jenin being destroyed, terrorist activities, terrorist, cells, opposition, resistance, all these kind of things being used by the Israelis. That's what they used to describe it. In the West, that's automatically deemed as a terrorist. So there is no validity to anyone resisting, not resistance fighters, but just resisting. The word resisting has been weaponized, no pun intended, and neutered by the Zionist, Israeli, American supported, or American defined, if you like, project. Think on that, because I don't know why, but I'm reminded a lot of the ANC in South Africa. I am. I remember as a kid being really confused because I loved cricket. And I remember, wanting to watch the test match and someone saying, oh, they're not playing in the test matches in South Africa, in the England team. Certain England players that weren't playing. Why? Because they're boycotting South Africa. Why? Because there's apartheid. What's that? Well, segregation, and whites own everything and have all the wealth, and black people are subjugated. And I remember as a kid thinking, God, that's really bad. And then you grow up and you think, oh, God, well, of course you've got to fight against that. Oh, no, you can't fight against it. What do you mean you can't fight against it? Be a terrorist then. The ANC, they're terrorists. Oh, so how do you stop it? This is what I've just realized this is what colonial imperialists do. They manufacture a so-called civilized approach to killing and control. Best exemplified in the UK, the British Empire, in India. Let's make a cup of tea and let's ethnically cleanse Dorothy. And what that still inherited approach to a sort of civilized destruction of savagery and savages. That's what's that's what is happening here in Palestine. You can only attack or fight back against Israel if you're holding a cup of tea, you have a lapel and a beret, and you've perhaps gone to Sandhurst. Then you're kind of, you're allowed to resist. I mean, I posited this argument about Jordan, Nadia's father's home country. If they fight against Israel, even though they're a recognized, sovereign nation with an army, will their army and will their soldiers be defined because they are simply fighting, even though they're fighting for Jordan's sovereignty, will they be defined as terrorists too? It's just a question for the day. I'd like it answered, but not by the big man in the big Oval Office. No, he's trying to pick bogeys off his leg from X. Can you get X off my leg right now? Keir Starmer's voice coach should be shot because he has got no good voice. I don't mean that literally before anyone gets really excited about it. It's a term of phrase, isn't it? A turn of phrase that is probably cancelled in various councils. Yet we are all savages. We are all savages. And I think there's a real savagery to behind a cup of tea and a G&T on the veranda with the Puwala, whatever that means. Ireland. I mean, look at, you know, you don't have to go far back. And isn't it funny how I always remember around the Irish question, whenever arguments erupted in our family, as they did often, because my mum was very left wing and my grandparents were very right wing. The argument would be, you know, the Irish, they would, you'd sort of say, you'd explain the history, or I'd hear the history, but people who couldn't actually string an argument together to justify an occupation or the killing or the control, whatever, they'd always say it's not historical. It's like this issue in Israel. It's really interesting, isn't it? Just final point on this. Everyone wants you to believe that this whole crisis started on October the 7th, a most reprehensible and awful day of atrocities against Israel, a horrible loss of life. But everyone wants you to think it started there. And yet the irony is that when you then get into the bigger debate over indigenous people of the land, suddenly Israel, America, and the Zionists involved want to point way, way, way further back. History can be picked and chosen from to justify a genocide, but not the last 75. No, don't look at the years preceding October the 7th from 1945. No, but beyond that, you got to. No, Julie, she's with Hannah, her friend Hannah. Do you get me? Don't know who's worse, Trump or Starmer. Well, I think Trump. I think we have to definitely say. Okay, so that is okay. Let's talk about Peter Kay. Who's a Peter Kay fan? She is with Hannah, going for oxygen. Absolutely, teeny tiny lass. Just curious, Christopher Condell. Hi, Chris. Discussed a news story about 2 nurses in a hospital over here in Australia saying incredibly anti-Semitic comments and being fired over it, saying they wouldn't treat Jewish people. That's awful. Yeah, no, that's as horrendous as the poor experience you had the other day for wearing a Palestinian pin. So who is love Peter Kay? Jackie Vellino, me. He amuses me. I like him. Sharon Carter, not a fan. Oh, why not? Good job, Lollipop. It's kind of he's one of those guys that you sort of think, oh, how can you? It's like Robin Williams. Some people, it's like, God, Robin, I loved him. Me, saw him last month, Stephanie. Always liked Peter Kay. You feel like he does things his way, doesn't he? He did it his way. So he's on tour, but he kicked out a fan. And I'm going to show you some really badly shot footage of the Heckler and him this is him in previous days. That's Peter Kay there. He used to be in that show where he drove around with someone, didn't he? What was it called? That was a huge hit. So anyway, so he had to deal with 2 hecklers. As I say, this is badly shot on someone's phone at the gig. Probably phones weren't allowed, but there you go. So here you go.
Garlic bread, kick him in the face, will you? Everyone around you is thinking. Next time someone says, "Penny for your thoughts," sell. We get it. Garlic bread, Peter. King, go and knock him, will you? It's up there. Come on, King. Just drag him out by his pubes. Film this. This is what you want. Yes. Oh, there's loads of them. Is he gone now? All right, love, we've heard you. Take her out and all while you're up there. Take her out. Yeah, is she a nightmare, everybody? Is she a nightmare? All right, Keith, get her. Keith, take that other woman up there. They're all complaining about her and all. Out you go. Go on, Lisa Riley. Go on.
So hecklers. Now, obviously, apart from Lee Peart, who's not in the chat, So, I mean, sometimes we get, although it's not heckling, you know, there'll be someone who's agitative in the chats, and you have to get rid of them. So it's not quite the same. But if someone's repeatedly chatting, now the garlic bread exchange, obviously Peter Kay had a garlic bread gag in it, or has a garlic bread gag in his routine. Car share, that was it. Thanks, Jeopardy. It was good. Yeah, Phoenix Nights was excellent, brilliant. So the guy just kept screaming garlic bread, which, to be brutally honest with you, the tickets won't have been cheap. And then there's having fun and having a laugh, and it's a comedy show, so you're all roaring with laughter. And then he asks Keith to pull him out by the pubes. I don't think he literally did, just like I don't think Keir Starmer's voice coach should literally be shot. But what do we think about it? I suppose the issue with hecklers and dealing with them and getting rid of them, because subsequent to this is the woman who was on the receiving end of being called Lisa Riley. What's her name? Let's have a look. Her name, Maya Curran, has told the Sun newspaper how she was in tears after she was kicked out of Peter Kay's show in Manchester. But apparently she too was also sort of being very rowdy. I mean, I suppose the difficulty is here is when it, and just to give you some context, if you don't know who Lisa Riley is, that's Lisa Riley. I mean, there is a similarity of sorts, dark hair, sort of big smile and all that kind of stuff. To be brutally honest, Lisa Riley, bless her, has issued a statement on her social media saying she would take no offense whatsoever. But the woman in question feels that it was a kind of, she was being body shamed, and it spoke to issues. I think it's difficult. I suppose when you say that someone looks like someone, you are kind of suggesting they share the features of that person, I suppose. Here's the thing. Someone just said, I don't know how to feel about that. I like it when people are just honest. I think a really overbearing, annoying heckler is fucking annoying. And so I think one either has to say, you know, he's not just getting rid of them for him. He's getting rid of them for everyone else in that audience. He's also managing to turn it into something that is vaguely entertaining. I mean, you can hear the guy who was filming that on his iPhone, you know, giggling away and talking about, I'm not sure whether the guy who pulled him out by their pubes was Keith or not. But I think for any normal person, it's discomforting though, isn't it? Because no one likes conflict. Do you think it's because we're all conflict averse? And so the idea of actually chucking someone out and and then heckling them back, I mean, it always puts me in mind of, do you remember the Blues Brothers, that film where they'd get on stage and it wasn't stand-up, they were singing, and they used to allow a chainmail net, or they'd have a sort of shield would come down so that when the bottles were thrown, they all just smashed everywhere. Gemma Perry, I do not understand why people go pissed. The tickets are too expensive to get chucked out. Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure what the ticket price is. Does anyone know? Let me see if it's here in the article. What's this? She's branded. I broke down crying after nasty bully. Peter Kay branded me a Lisa Riley lookalike. Okay, so whose side are you on? Who's on? Say you're on. Are you on? Let me put it in a yes/no way. Are you on Peter Kay's side? Do you sympathise and empathise with Peter Kay? I paid 110 quid, Gemma Perry. And how long was the show? Is it like an hour? Wow, Gemma, that's a lot. What, per ticket? I was at Stevie Nicks and some drunk kept shouting out they had to put them out. Spoils it for everyone. I mean, I think it has to be dealt with. I'm all for a quiet life, says Julie Hilton. She deserves to be thrown out, acting like a twit. Yes, that's his humour, Jackie Vellino. It's all blown up to a nasty situation, Sadie C. Jimmy Carr allows it on his show, so maybe people think it's okay to do it on another show. Yes, I mean, some artists really, some stand-up routines really use the heckler, which is clever. They turn the heckler to their advantage. I mean, I'm trying to think of, has there ever been an instance where maybe a heckler has been so sort of humiliated that they've ended up clambering onto stage? But it'd be, etiquette around hecklers or hecklerquette. Difficult one. Most comedians, Grace Ann Martin, use that as a massive part of their act. If it was annoying other guests, then perhaps that was the reason. Yeah. Yeah, don't be transphobic. They identify as jokes aren't funny. Yes, PK's side, play silly games and win silly prizes. Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I suppose for the person who's been thrown out, they'll forever have a story to tell, won't they? I was the person thrown out. I wonder if he even remembers it. Dave Edwards, Chubby Brown would eat you for breakfast if you heckled him. Yeah, that's true, actually. Peter Kay's a kind of hangover from the working men's clubs of the North, isn't he? I mean, you heckle in one of those clubs, fuck me. You're lucky if you come out with your limbs. Okay, let's talk about big knickers and God. What? So here's a great big pair of pants. Thanks for that, Dave. Yeah, of course, Bridget Jones, a massive pair of pants. Okay, who here is wearing big pants? The last bad one I remember, Reese, is a couple of Christmases ago when I saw Paul Chowdhury near Covent Garden. He ended up cussing them out a storm. Hi, Tim Reed. Hope you're well, mate. Yes, Steve Hofstetter uses hecklers to his advantage. I don't think we should compare people. Let me just pull down the neck. I don't mean pull down the neck. Oh, hang on a minute. Let me pull down, get rid of that. I don't think we should compare people to others. It's a bit weird when people do that. But on the other hand, don't throw something out if you can't take it back. Yeah. Also, Bunty V, good point. These idiots usually think they're funnier than who people they've paid to see on stage. Newsflash, they aren't. Okay, big knickers. Gemma Perry, I love big knickers. I'm wearing Sarah D. So does Rachel Thomas. I love big knickers, Bluebell. They're comfy. Comfort is key, says Karima Handy. Well, yeah, big. Well, apparently, so they say, Gen Zers are quite conservative. Gen Z is in a twist, says the Times, over big knickers. The Times survey has revealed that Gen Z are having less casual sex. They've ditched one-night stands for park runs or avocado on toast. Smashed avocado on toast, actually. One could attribute this new conservative attitude to several social and economic factors, but I argue it's something to do with the return of equally conservative big knickers, says the person who's written this article. Forget barely their thongs, flossy G-strings, or cheeky Brazilians. Full coverage, tummy skimming, bottom hiding briefs are selling like hotcakes. According to Matalan have reported that larger pants have made up for more than half of its underwear sales so far this year. Big knickers making up a third of Matalan's lingerie offering, and customers are buying them in bulk. £5 multi-pack of 4 black full briefs is the best seller in the department. Now, my idea around pants, knickers, all that sort of hullabaloo down below, my thing was always, my nan used to say often, be mindful if you get run over, Chuck, you make sure you've got a clean pair of underpants on. That isn't it funny? You know, the things that those parental figures in your life say, they stick with you. So for me, whenever I put on a pair of pants, and I change my pants every day, I'm always thinking, oh, how will I feel if I'm splayed out on the road and my trousers have torn open and I've got these on? At which point I generally take off the Santa Claus pants. But I also think that is it a sign that we're not dressing to attract so much, or we're not, you know, there's less one-night stands happening, there's less promiscuity, there's less sex happening, if you believe this survey of nearly 1,300 Gen Zers. And if that's the case, I suppose what this reflects is we're less wearing clothes for the potentiality of meeting someone. Or finding ourselves alongside someone. And I do think that's a big part of what we wear underneath. Better than the cheese cut. Jackie Valino, I've never understood thongs. I've never found thongs a thing. thong. I've just thought of them as, I hate to use the phrase, but anal flossers. I do find funny the fact, though, and I used to say it a lot when I was younger, how women's knickers, when they come off, tend to kind of boing down to something so minuscule, don't they? They become something about that big. And there'd be many times, I hate to say it, in our bachelor pad back in the 90s, when, you know, you'd stumble into the kitchen and you'd be like, what is that down there in the corner? Is that sort of a strange ball of elastic bands? And you'd go, oh, no. Oh, it's a pair of those. The worst pants ever, the G-string. Well, anyway, alongside big knickers, apparently Gen Zers are also increasingly, well, this is interesting. Are they into God? Not necessarily into God. And I want to ask you guys, does anyone in the room have faith? I don't mean George Michael's music. but faith, belief. And when I say faith or belief, I don't mean that it could be in God. It could be a specific God. It could be a specific religious belief. But do you have a sort of spiritual faith? Or are you a rudderless, not even agnostic, atheist who feels that when you die, that's it. Put me in a drawer and shut the door. 3, the droop, big knickers, sounds like big pharma, and that makes me think the article about Gen Z is actually propaganda. Oh God, what's the propaganda though? The droop. You've got me panicked about big knickers. Yes, Sheila Patterson. Oh look, the vast majority of you do. Spirituality, Dawny Harvey. Don't believe in organized religion, but I'm a bit spiritual. Well, apparently this survey, which according to Dree Thoop says is propaganda, and it could be, because let's face it, everything is. I mean, if you read a sentence, it's telling you to think something, isn't it? Because you're reading it. Language is propaganda. Oh, now we've gone down a wormhole. Anyway, but the vast majority, by all accounts, it's not that they're necessarily into a formal type of religion, but an increasing number of youngsters or Gen Zers say that they're not atheist. So this is the idea that, and I wonder whether part of this is to do with an increasing kind of trend for mindfulness, meditation, a sort of not mystic, but a sort of non-specific spirituality is something we all hearken for in troubled times. Oh, crikey, Nicola Gilroy. I'm an Irish and the atheist, not popular here. Is it still quite hardline, strong Catholicism? Is it across many parts of certainly Southern Ireland? And when it's Protestantism, is it quite powerful too? Of course, there's less sex, says Erin Bullimore. Where are teens supposed to have sex anymore? Parents' house, public sexual places, less and less of those. We live in a time that's stifled healthy, free sexual culture. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Tim Reed, I consider myself to be a down-to-earth Christian, and you certainly are, Squire. A very impressive one and inspiring one you are too. Spiritual, yeah. I mean, I would say I don't know. None of us know what happens when we die. I do believe in, I think, energy, and I do believe in, the idea that we leave lasting impressions and that we're an amorphous mass of kind of just vibe and all that kind of stuff. I don't believe in a God. I don't believe that, in one specific thing, but I do like to believe that there is something beyond simply us and our bodies. I think, whether it be Earth, but I've said it before, but when I'm faced with extreme creativity in the arts, and someone can make you feel something by doing something artificially with something, paint, writing, whatever. I marvel. I think, good God, there's something spiritual here. This is amazing. That's where I get it. Jean Ridgewell, not religious at all. I do believe, says Janine Amory. I always wonder, says Bluebell, where our consciousness goes. Exactly. Because our consciousness, when you talk to scientists and, atheists, they go, well, all your emotions are it's just kind of synapses and kind of cells and molecules working in your head. I look at them and I think, God, you smell. You really smell. You smell atheist. There is an atheist smell. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, my nan always used to say, oh, Mark, I don't know. I'm an agnostic. I'm hedging my bets. Greek Orthodox baptized, but I actually, says Christos, believe there's a universal energy power, like me. It's the national grid, mate. That moves all and everything. Some call it God. I call it the power of the universe. Fucking hell, mate. You're like something out of Star Trek. When they come up on the monitor and you're like, oh my God. Yeah, I agree, but I agree. I mean, I'm joking. I agree. I think there is an energy. There is we all are in a fabric of ooh, la la. But when someone says, oh yeah, but even when you feel love, you're not feeling love. It's your brain sending a signal to you. I feel like going, go away and die then. Sorry, that was a bit strong. Sorry. Anyway, on that note, have a lovely day. As I say, later tonight, or later today, we're going to be doing Trump's America, part 3. We might have to call it Trump and Musk and X's America, because it's all very strange. Anyway, guys, have a lovely day. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks for all your contributions. It really makes all of this infinitely more enjoyable for everyone. So thank you so much. And Dork off Dawkins.